Diamond C fundamental for success number 7, check your ego at the door. It's not about you. Don't let your ego or personal agenda get in the way of doing what's best for the team. Worrying about who gets credit or taking things personally is counterproductive. Make sure that every decision is based on advancing the total team. We win together and we are better together. So Gloria, thanks for joining me for a few minutes to share some of your wisdom and perspective on this fundamental. I can't help but imagine that with your background in coaching soccer and education, and then your last several years here at Diamond C, that you have to have some pretty crazy stories to tell about how you've seen ego affect a team's performance. And so if you don't mind, that's where I'd really like to jump in, is thinking about on the soccer field. And you've coached high school girls, you've coached Little League, you've been a part of lots of soccer over the course of your life. So how have you seen ego affect the performance of a team on the soccer field?
I mean, I guess I can go back and look at my college team. I mean, we had a really good team. We had our forward had scored 105 goals in our conference in the 4 years that she had been in college. And I go back and think about our conference tournament, and I think they were so used to doing so well and doing so good that I think they let their humility come to kind of get booted to the side, and they let their ego get the best of them because they were like, man, I'm good, I'm real good, I'm so good, and it became more of it's about me, like, how good do I look? They get me in the paper, not everyone, but some, the ones that you're counting on to really be the fearless leaders, and so I think that really hurt us, because when we finally got a chance to be in the conference tournament, we got creamed because we allowed, that to get the best of us as a total team, because it was about, just an individual instead of like the whole group, So I think that I saw that then, and then whenever I became a coach, it's one of those things where, your best players, they know they're good, and they know you need them. And then they come out and they perform in practice like, I already know what to do, so I don't need practice.
Right.
Like, practice is for people that are no good, And so it's always a challenge, when you're trying to build a team where people are, receptive to being coached and who understand the humility of being a part of a team. I think the best high-performing teams are humble. I mean, there is a little bit of confidence, because you have to have a little bit of confidence, right? I think you got onto me about not having enough, right? When I started at Diamond C. But I mean, I think over the years you try to learn, like, there is a good balance between having, that confidence and that reassurance that you know what you're doing, and then also understanding, like, when you still don't know enough, and you need to make sure you learn, and I'm a learner at heart, so it's like one of those things where you had to learn from the player and they had to learn from you. So it was difficult to make decisions based on like their behaviors, because I mean, I really wanted to win a ball game to go into playoffs. We had just, it was my first year as a head coach, and I had waited my whole life to be a head coach, and I sat 4 of my starters because I was so disappointed in just, some behaviors and stuff. And I was like, oh man, but they're so great. They're so great. And I knew that was going to be a critical moment. And when we lost the game, I was devastated. But then I look back and I think to myself, it wasn't about the game. It was about the life lesson. Like, I wanted them to understand that selfish acts hurt the entire team, and it did hurt us because we didn't go into playoffs. And that broke my heart, But I'm sure that they can go back and say, well, she probably had ego too because she was so hard on us. But I think there was this combination of wanting to make sure that, that you set the tone for them. Like, you wanted them to be high performers. It wasn't an ego thing. It was more of, I saw the best in them, and I wanted them to see it too. I wanted you to not feel like the underdog. I wanted you to be confident. So it's like, I wanted you to be confident, but I want you to have this big old ego either. I wanted you to have this good balance of knowing that you're good enough, but not too good.
So I love a couple of things from what you just said. Ego out of balance or out of check. Unchecked at the door. Divides a team.
Absolutely. I mean, it is divisive because, then all the players that do come and show up every day and work hard every day and that are respectful, that are humble, then they start seeing like that behavior. Is that behavior okay? Because if it's okay for them to do it, then why am I trying to do the right thing? And so that was always difficult. All the players were great. It's just a matter of moments, moments of this whole like I'm better, and that does affect the team a lot.
Absolutely. The other thing that I picked up on and as you were just talking is the connection, the link between learning and ego,
Yeah.
or ego and humility.
Yeah.
This idea that we have to be, we have to check our ego at the door to be able to learn and grow and practice, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you can't just come in and carry yourself like you know everything, because you don't know everything. And
Right.
I'm sure my players can say, "Oh man, she was probably the hardest, so stubborn." Because I was very like, like, we're gonna get this done. But I wanted them to understand, like, we're gonna get this done, but we're gonna do this together collaboratively. And if I can't learn from you and understand you, and you understand me, like, this is not gonna work. And it's this idea where you have to be receptive, and if you're not receptive, like, you're gonna fail.
Absolutely. So how do you see these principles that you're talking about on the soccer field transfer into the workplace at Diamond C or any other workplace? How do you see those same principles apply?
Well, I mean, coming into Diamond C with just the background of just coaching, like, I think leadership, you have to be confident. You told me, there's so many people that told me, be more confident in your ability to lead. But I think that sometimes in leaders, you finally get to this place where you are a leader, and then you're kind of torn between, if I show that I'm too humble, I don't want to be like taken advantage of either. Or I don't want to be walked on, but I also don't want to be too egotistical or too confident or come across like I'm cocky, because then it's going to be like, oh, well, she's not even approachable, or,
Right.
And I think there were several times where I had to have this balance, and I had people check me too.
Right,
You know what I mean? Like, hey, calm down, because I'm passionate. So naturally, I'm just a passionate person. Like, I want to get it done, right? I think first and foremost, we need to understand, like, here at Diamond C, I had to learn to understand every leader. There's some leaders that take a lot of pride in being perfectionist. And I appreciate that, you know what I mean? Because I was there too. And then I realized, you know what? I don't have to be that way. I just have to take it one day at a time in bite sizes. So I had to understand that leader. And even today, I mean, almost 6 years later, I think there's a little bit of what is that word? I think it's healthy to have a little bit of ego, because we all have it. Everybody has it, right?
For sure.
But I think that it's the idea of making sure that when you're in a leadership role, that you do have that confidence, but you have that humility enough to say, hey, I was wrong and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I think that goes way farther than saying, oh no, you were wrong and you should be sorry, and I think there's value in being able to understand what tool you have to pull out of your toolbox at what moment, even if it is when it comes to self-esteem or self-assurance,
Absolutely. So ego, it seems like ego puts up walls, right? When ego is out of check, it puts up walls between team members, walls between leaders and team members, between leaders and leaders. It puts up walls, and it makes the team less effective.
Yeah. I think so, because even whenever in my coaching days, when you're coming into a room and all of them have a lot of experience, and I had like no head coaching experience, and you're coming in and they know how to run even the meeting, and I'm just sitting there like you shrivel up, and at that moment you have to like put your game face on and be like, no, I'm standing firm, and I think there's health behind trying to make sure that you are confident enough to lead a group and make those hard decisions and make those critical moves. And, there's things that people will judge you on, and you have to be humble enough to take that criticism, not let it get to you, because I've let that happen to myself. And then you have to be aware of the fact that it's not just damaging one person or yourself, it's damaging the entire organization, the entire team.
Absolutely.
So, for me, it was like walking into a room with a bunch of experienced coaches at that time was very intimidating, but it's like I'm representing more than Gloria. I'm representing my entire team. And so I had to be confident, but not cocky.
Right. There you go. Careful difference.
You know what I mean?
Careful difference. So you said everyone has an ego. I believe that's true. Everyone has an ego, and everyone needs
I think so.
To know it.
I think so. They recognize it at least, right?
But this idea of checking our ego at the door, of keeping it in check, keeping it balanced, and being very, very careful with it, that's a challenging thing to do in practice on the daily.
Yeah.
Because I think it so much comes back to like heart set, mindset. Yeah. And so how do you go about, how does a person actually practice this fundamental? And what would you recommend to say if I need to work on keeping my ego checked and in balance? How can I do that?
I think that And this is just a lot of learning. And even here, 6 years, I think that a lot of it has to do with, really asking yourself, is the decisions that I'm making going to affect, are they for me, for my selfish reasons, or are they for the entire team? Is it for me to have credit, or is it for my team to be applauded because they deserve that? They're working on it, I think that you have to be really conscious of, the idea that you're not the one that's going to get credit, even though you're the leader, even though you're the coach. You're not the one that's supposed to get the credit. Your team gets the credit.
Right.
So when you're doing it through selfish motives, like oftentimes you fail because you're a one-man band, and that's ridiculous. You row the boat together, and you don't want to be the one who's leading everybody and saying row the boat, and everybody's getting tired. And that's not the way you lead people. That's not the way you do it, because I've learned, there have been people that have checked me whenever I'm like super like over the top and, let's go. The achiever in me is like, okay, you know what? We're going to get it done no matter what. And it's like this balance between like, you have to understand who you're working with. You have to understand your team, understand the audience, and being able to be, I guess, self-reflective as, is this hurting or helping my team? Right. Am I being wise or am I being foolish? And I have to ask myself that a lot,
Yeah. No, I love that self-examination, self-reflection.
You have to.
Examine your motives is maybe the key to checking our ego, right?
Well, yeah, because when you have a huge ego, like, who trusts you? Mm-hmm. Because when you're more worried about just, I want to deliver results and just results and only results, then people are like, then what am I? Just chopped liver?
Yeah.
That's funny, but they're just, it's like, am I just a number? Am I just trying to do what you asked me to do? Like, I want to be a part of something more meaningful. And, coming from a place where, you're not necessarily like, you're in a place where you have that platform. So you need to make sure that you're setting an example. So where, you're coaching someone who wants to be coached, but you have to be coachable too, because then they're not going to want to follow along either.
Absolutely. That's so true. So, so I want to take the opportunity to say thank you for the times that you've checked me and coached me.
You too.
I absolutely have needed it along the way. We all do. We all have an opportunity to learn and grow and become better at what we do, better at being great, being good people.
Yeah. I think we all do.
And humility or a checked ego is such a critical part of that equation.
Yeah.
To be able to learn and grow and advance in life.
Yeah.
At home or at work or everywhere in between, for sure. So thank you so much for the wisdom that you shared, your perspective. I love the connections between, obviously I'm not a soccer guy, but I love the connections between how this applies in sports on the soccer field. I know tons of our team members and listeners are sports fans, and all these check your ego at the door lessons apply so much. Principles apply so much to sports and to work, to business, to all. So thank you for sharing some perspective on that. So for anyone out there that is working to fuel the growth and success of yourself, your team, your family, your community, take this to heart. Check your ego at the door. Be careful to balance that confidence and ego and humility. Be careful to balance those things so that your door is open and you are well positioned to fuel the growth and success of your team, the people around you. Remember, we win together and we are better together.